Woo-hoo! Man, what a game, Justin. What a game. How's it going, everybody? We're gonna let the music roll, right? We're gonna let it roll. The win.
Let's let it roll. I need a light on, man. It's dark.
It was.
Oh, that glare is brutal. Keep going. We're good.
NBA Finals win tonight from the Boston Celtics. The Celtics were able to defend home court tonight in Game 2 of the NBA Finals. 105-98 was your final score. The Celtics now lead the series 2-0 heading into that Game 3, which will be held on June 12th at 8:30 p.m. That is tip-off time, with the ESPN and ABC. It's going to be right around 8:40, 8:45. Justin, obviously, Celtics take a commanding lead heading onto the road. Tonight, a lot to talk about. Porzingis obviously hobbled and limped there in the back half of that fourth quarter. You had to see Al Horford, who did a phenomenal job tonight, close this game out for the Celtics. Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, a lot to dive into on the C side as well as the Dallas side of things. But, before we get into all that, the drill. I'm looking for your initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from tonight's, I would call, impressive win.
Yeah, it was a very impressive win. Tonight was one of those nights where the shots weren't falling. How else are you going to win the game, right? Celtics had no issue on the defensive end tonight. Yet another win where the Celtics hold an opponent to under 100 points. That's been the theme throughout the postseason. Celtics seemingly so have not skipped a beat since game one. Game one was more of an offensive firepower. Defense looks very solid in game one as well. Defense carried over here tonight. Offense staggered a little bit. Celtics got some good looks, but weren't able to fall. I thought Tatum had one of his career worst shooting nights, but he was able to make up for it with his passing tonight. 12 assists, 9 rebounds. That kind of tells you how locked in he was in terms of, how else can you impact the game? You talk about that all the time, Rob. How else are you going to impact the game if you're not scoring the basketball? Usually we're talking about guys like Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser. Tonight we're talking about Jason Tatum in that position. But overall, I think this was a very solid game for the Celtics. And by far not the prettiest of wins, but when you're in the NBA Finals and you only got a potential 7 games left, you take every win that you can get. And now you're 2 wins away from your 18th championship. Job isn't finished, though.
No, you summed that up perfectly, I think. I agree with every point you said. I thought that the difference tonight was Boston's attention to details.
Right.
And you saw the maturity of the Boston Celtics at full level tonight. I mean, this game is not a game that any other previous year Celtics team wins. It was a game that was in the dumps from the start. Boston from behind the arc shot 10 of 39 from 3. If it wasn't for that last 10-second 3-point in the corner from Al Horford in that first quarter, it would have been their first game all season, Justin, without making a 3-pointer in the first quarter. So it was written for the Celtics to lose. And this game was the game for Dallas to steal. And that's kind of my takeaway from this game. Is my thought process here, Justin, is if you're Dallas, if you aren't able to win this game, are you really in a position to realistically beat this Celtics team in a 7-game NBA Finals? Obviously trailing now 0-2, going back home, but the Celtics played terrible for, I would say, 55% of this game, and they were able to pull it out.
This is something that I talked about with Matt Ryan post-game of game one. Let Luka go for your 40. Let Luka go for his 40. Guard the other 4 guys on the court. Maintain those guys. If you can maintain those other 4 guys, Luka Doncic isn't going to score 106 points, right?
Right.
You need help. When I say you, I'm talking Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic needs help. We're in the NBA Finals here. So Dallas is here for a reason. Obviously, Washington and Lively and Jones are off to rough starts here, but they've played terrific up until this point.
Right.
Similar to I talked about this with Franco in the Cleveland series before Donovan Mitchell went down. Seemingly so, it was the Boston Celtics versus Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
No, Max Strus wasn't helping. Okoro wasn't helping. Garland was having a rough time. Well, that's a little bit of the same thing that you're getting here. Now Kyrie Irving's struggling. Derek Lively tonight was 1 for 3 off the bench. Maxi Kleber was 0 for 4 off the bench. Green was 1 for 4 off the bench. So all those guys are shooting sub 30% from the floor. That's not help. Luka Doncic needs help. He can drop 32, 11, and 11 all series long, and he's still 0-2. Right. So Dallas really needs help. The other guys absolutely need to step up. Kyrie Irving has had a very, very difficult time in this series. If I'm correct, I believe he's yet to even hit a three-pointer. I believe he's 0 of 9 in the combined two teams. So obviously Kyrie is due for this big game, but as long as Boston is able to kind of maintain the other 14 guys on the Dallas Mavericks, the Celtics should be okay. This is something similar that, although you and I weren't alive to witness this, Celtics had trouble against Michael Jordan in the Chicago Bulls. What did they do? They let Jordan go for his 40, 50, 60 points a game, and they maintained the other guys. Did that lose them a series? Absolutely not. Michael Jordan was, let's face it, as great as Michael Jordan is, one of the greatest players to ever play, if not the greatest, he was not going to beat the Boston Celtics 1-on-15. Luka Doncic is not going to beat the Celtics 1-on-15. If these other guys on the Dallas, I said it in the Cleveland series, I'm saying it in this series, if the other 4 guys on the court can't help Luka Doncic out, this series is over in 4. Rob, I'm not, this series is over right now, because guess what? Up 2-0. I'm not satisfied. We've been in this position before. We've been in this scenario before. We were up 2-1 in the finals 2 years ago, nearly up 3-1, and we all know the outcome of that series against Golden State. This series is far from, but I am guaranteeing it. Seamus guaranteeing it right now. If the other 4 guys don't wake up on the court for the Dallas Mavericks, this series is over in 4, maybe 5. This is a quick series.
I just don't see a world after what I saw tonight from Dallas where they're able to make this a series, maybe win a game, right? Maybe win a game, but some things are seriously going to have to change. Now, me personally, I'm not expecting this Kyrie Irving in Dallas. Right. I'm not. I think you would be crazy to say that the Boston crowd, it's affecting Kyrie. It's very, very evident. It's very clear. Obviously, credit goes to Boston's perimeter defense. They're doing a phenomenal job at limiting and putting pressure on Kyrie Irving, but it's a tough environment to play in, given the history, given the relationship. Boston's feeding into the whole narrative. It's tough for any human being to go into that environment and not be a little bit in your own head. So tonight was it. Dallas, it had Dallas written all over it. Luka Doncic was shooting 70% with 23 points, Justin, in the first half, and they found themselves trailing. It's like, for me, Celtics biased aside, that makes no logical sense. The fact that you, with as high of a caliber as Luka Doncic is, tonight he had 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists, 4 steals, shooting over 50%. Obviously, second half, the Celtics did a phenomenal job at limiting him. I really think they put the pressure up on him, but tonight it had Dallas, in my opinion, written all over it. Jason Tatum, 6 of 22. Jaylen Brown got it going in the second half, but had a rough first half. Porzingis obviously really hobbled tonight. Not a Porzingis game.
No.
And you weren't able to beat them. And I think if you're in the finals, this is a game, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, that you have to be walking off the court, shaking your head, thinking and doubting to yourselves. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be doing that. But from a fan's point of view, that's where my mentality would be. Because tonight, it should have been the Dallas Mavericks walking away out of Boston, tied series 1-1, going back home, looking to take a commanding lead. So, we'll have to see. Obviously, it's the finals. You make a phenomenal point that the Celtics have been here before, and they have been unable to close the job. So it's a whole different series now going into Dallas. You're on the road. You don't have the comfort of your home court. With the lingering status of Kristaps yet to be determined. We'll find out more about that later. We'll keep you guys updated if we get anything. But someone we have to talk about, and really you already know you know who it's going to be. He had his fingerprints written all over this game. He is the reason the Boston Celtics are currently having a 2-0 commanding series lead through these first two finals games, Justin. It's
Yeah.
Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday tonight is your player of the game, player spotlight, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 2 stocks, 3 assists, 11 of 14 from the floor, Justin, 2 of 4 from behind the arc. You said it in the group chat during the game. That is video game 2K-esque shooting splits for Drew. How was Drew Holiday able to get his hands all over this game?
I'll tell you what, Drew Holiday played a lot of the lower block tonight. He was kind of playing that baseline. You know, in high school, how you always have somebody on offense running the baseline. That's what Drew Holiday was doing tonight. He was running a lot of that baseline action and found himself inside a lot. Here's a guy who doesn't need to be a 26 point, a game score, but he's capable of doing that, right? It's not like he's in Milwaukee where he had to put up the 30, the 40, the 50 at one point points a game. He doesn't have to do that here. He can just kind of sit back, hang out in that corner, run the offense, and just be there alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I also talked about this the other night with Matt, and I explained to him that, this team, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown specifically, needed a player like Drew Holiday and needed a player like Kristaps Porzingis. I don't look at this as a super team. I look at this as seamless fits. That's what I said the other night. Seamless fit. Drew Holiday, seamless fit alongside Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Great defender. You could say that better defender, not to compare situations here, better defender than Marcus Smart. Definitely a better offensive player than Marcus Smart, can orchestrate the offense as well as shoot the piss out of the basketball. But Drew Holiday tonight was absolutely spectacular. And when the Celtics kind of started off slow, it was Drew Holiday who got them going on both ends of the floor. My favorite play was when he was given Luka. This was, I believe, second half. I know for sure. I just forget if it was in that third or fourth quarter. But Celtics were on a little bit of a run. Drew Holiday tipped the pass from Luka Doncic, and White intercepted it, and then Drew Holiday pulls up and he drains a three. That to me is just exactly what Drew Holiday is about. He gives you that defense, and that defense turns it into perfect offense. And we are just so incredibly lucky, Rob, to be sitting here talking about Drew Holiday on our team, because 2 years ago we were talking about how Drew Holiday potentially, if we didn't have those Jason Tatum Game 6 heroics, Drew Holiday would have been the one to end our season in that Game 5 when he stole the ball and sealed that game. So definitely Drew Holiday, is one of those players you hate to play against, but you love to have on your team.
No doubt. And it's funny because today I was talking about this. I didn't realize how good Drew Holiday was at defense. I didn't get the hype. I had a general consensus that he was a very phenomenal defender, but I didn't truly understand it until he came to Boston. And really, I totally didn't wrap my head around it until these playoffs. What he can do defensively is truly remarkable. And he has to be one of the NBA's best perimeter defenders of all time. He has to be in that category because his ability to lock up and contain generational talent, such as Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, is remarkable. And then if you want to really talk about the difference between this year's team and last year's team, and specifically Marcus Smart and Drew Holiday, because unfortunately I love Marcus, but that is the comparison and that is the role swap you have to look at. The difference maker with Drew Holiday and this Celtics team has been Drew's acceptance to his role, Justin. Like, this is a guy that came in and was the second man, the second fiddle on a championship team. He was an all-star. Yeah. He was an all-NBA caliber player. He was an all-defensive first team nominee. He was a defensive player of the year nominee. I mean, this guy had the ring. He had the accolades. He had everything to have an ego coming into Boston, and he hasn't sniffed any of that. His acceptance into this role that he has been playing is truly remarkable. He is okay if he's scoring 5 points. He is okay and ready to go if he needs to score 30. So really, Drew Holiday, that to me is what makes him so special. Yes, the defensive ability is phenomenal. Yes, his three-point shooting is remarkable, crazy efficient. However, his acceptance to his role, it's something that not a lot of NBA players can do, and it's something that Drew Holiday has done. So, tonight, Drew Holiday, this was his staple signature moment as a Boston Celtic. And you will look back at this in the history books as the game that Drew Holiday cemented his legacy in Boston, because he's been here for a year. You know it, Justin. If you raise a banner, if you get that ring, you are forever engraved and etched into the Boston legacy. And he did that, and he took the Celtics one step closer to doing that. Next up, I feel like you might know where I'm going with this. Jason Kidd, the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, obviously, he had some remarks about the phenomenal duo that is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Now, I don't really want to get into much of who we think is better, because we texted about this earlier. We don't really, quite frankly, excuse my language, we don't really give a shit. It doesn't matter to us who people think is the better of the two of them. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, but
trying to win a championship is what it is.
Yes,
but it's like,
I do want to say something.
Yeah,
I think it threw Tatum off. I think it did.
First of all, Tatum had a rough shooting night. He was ticking me off with the shots. It wasn't so much he was missing shots. The shot selection I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I will give Jason Tatum the credit of impacting the game in different ways, because me personally, I'm not the one who likes when people say, oh, he only scored 12 points, he must have had a terrible game, or, oh, he missed a certain amount of shots, he had a terrible game. I'm looking I'm not trying to sound like I'm the player and I'm the one on the court, but when you're trying to win a championship, just, from the outside looking in, it's so much beyond the scoring. And we kind of talked about it with Drew Holiday. Doesn't matter if he scores 5 points. Doesn't matter if he scores 26 points. Quite frankly, I'm looking at the 11 rebounds as a point guard, and that to me is the most impressive thing out of it.
Right.
When I look at Jason Tatum, if he's going to shoot 6 for 22, which is terrible, he better be rebounding the basketball. He better be passing the basketball, and he better be getting his keister back on defense. There were some times tonight where he did not get back on defense, but overall, from Jason Tatum tonight, his shooting was well off, and at times did hurt this team.
Right.
But I'm looking at those 12 assists in those 9 rebounds. We always talk about the rebounding. That shows you how locked in they are. How are those rebounding numbers? Those assist numbers tonight goes to show you the evolution of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Don't mean to put those two together, but I also look at Jaylen Brown's assist. I believe he had 6 or 7 of them. It's important to me that all these guys are moving the ball and passing the ball and playing unselfish basketball, because that tells you what the goal is. That tells you what the goal in mind is. You don't have Jason Tatum going for the 50 and Jaylen Brown. They're not competing. Everybody tries to, mesh them together and compete. That's not what that is. So I was very impressed. I was not impressed by Tatum's shot selection and his poor shooting tonight, but I was impressed by his assist and rebound numbers, Rob, because like I said earlier in the show, you probably advocated on the most. If you're not going to shoot and score the basketball, you better be doing something else, or else you better be sitting on the pine, right? So Jason Tatum tonight, not impressed with the shooting. I do think to kind of piggyback on your point about, maybe Jason Kidd comments got in his head a little bit. I will say I do think Tatum played a little passive tonight. There were looks that he passed up. One of those specifically that just really is stuck into my mind here is before the half, he had a wide open 3. When does Jason Tatum ever pass up a wide open 3? And instead, he dribbled into 2 defenders, threw up a wild shot that got blocked, and that was the end of the first half. So that to me was a little bit concerning tonight. I did see him pass up some really good looks, so I do wonder if Jason Kidd's comments had any effect. They can always play cool and be like, nah, we're not focused on that. But we're all humans at the end of the day.
Right, and you're right. Just like how we talk about Kyrie, and that has to play a mental factor. It played a mental factor. As how much I don't know, but it was in his brain. It was in
Mm,
his mind. He was thinking about it, which was the purpose and the intent of those comments. So, for me, I love your points on the playmaking and rebounding. You know me. I'm Mister. If
mm,
you're not scoring, what are you doing? So I liked that from Tatum, and I thought in the second half he wasn't steering away from who he is, and I think that's very important with with a player at the caliber of Jason Tatum, because you do need him to be present and be locked in those moments, because I do trust him to take those shots and to make the right plays. And a lot of Drew Holiday's success tonight came off of looks from Jason Tatum. So, yes, it was a terrible shooting performance from Jason Tatum, but he was able to piece together and play winning basketball. And I think that is enough in the finals. That's what you're looking for, because it was going to be very easy for Tatum, I think, to roll over and say, screw this, I'm shooting poorly, I'm not getting the whistle. And I'll tell you what, there was a couple plays. That dunk where he went up, it was followed by a Derek White three, but he went up for a poster, got clobbered, and there was no whistle. And I was sitting there and I was like, what are we doing?
mm.
Like, so, it has not been a phenomenal Tatum shooting playoff efficiency wise, but I really do think he has stepped into this new role of being the commander of the offense. And I think that speaks volume to the growth of Jason Tatum, because I think Tatum 2 or 3 years ago, or even last year, wasn't ready for that jump. And I think he took a jump. So, you know, him and Brown, I thought Brown was great in the second half. JB has had a hell of a playoff run. But before we advance to the next topic, I do want to say something regarding this whole idea with these two. Um, Tatum has had his playoff greatness moments. So has Jaylen Brown. The difference with this year in those two guys, Justin, they're putting it together. They're doing
Mm.
it together, and they're doing it in a style of winning basketball games. And I think that is not getting looked at, is the fact that, it doesn't matter who's better or who had the better game, because they each are high level, high caliber players. Jaylen Brown has asserted himself into the top 12 NBA players in the league category, and Jason Tatum has been there. That's enough in
Right.
itself. These two guys are playing off of each other. They're taking turns, and they're playing winning basketball at an extremely, extremely high level. Justin, 78-20 on the year, regular season and postseason. That is ridiculous.
Not that they haven't before,
Right.
but they, at least I notice, they are embracing each other more and more as their careers go on, and they truly embody each other's success, and it really feels like an Ubuntu type thing. I am because you are. Uh, that's what that feels like, and you know, kind of going off of both of our points earlier, the amount of sacrifice that each player has gone through on this team, in the drastic role changes to guys like Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. You could even throw Al Horford in there, because Al Horford, who has been a starter most of his career, almost all of his career, has been the sixth man this year. And then all of a
Right.
sudden, Porzingis goes down, and for over a month, Al Horford's going to get back into that starting role. So I think each player has had to sacrifice a tremendous amount, and each player has had to really kind of, everybody has had to come together and discuss what the ultimate goal is here. And
Right.
and it doesn't matter if I can't, I understand what people are trying to get at, like, oh no, Jimmy and Donovan and missed a few games of the series, and Tyrese missed a few. I understand that. But at the same time, you do not win 64 games in the regular season, or a top 2 offense, a top 3 defense. You don't have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown don't have the All-Star game. Joe Mazzulla is not a Coach of the Year candidate. Drew Holiday and Derek White are not first-team All-Defense. All that doesn't happen for no reason. Like, let's not take away what the Boston Celtics have been able to do over the course of the past 100 games. Okay.
Right.
Celtics have had their injuries. Let's face it. Even the guys who are playing, even the guys who don't get any minutes, you can't tell me every single player is 100% this time of year. We are going into the middle of June. There's not a single player healthy right now. Everybody is playing through something, as little as a headache. So what I've been able to see from Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday has been spectacular, as we mentioned, tonight's player spotlight. I do give credit to Peyton Pritchard, a guy who essentially wanted out a year ago and kind of really came together and embraced his role in this team. And you know, he wants to win. And we have a group of winners. Even the guys who don't get many minutes, we have a group of winners. And that's the difference in why the Boston Celtics have only lost 2 games this entire playoff series, or this entire playoff stretch. I don't want to hear the injury talk. We've gone through it as well. And over the years, Rob, we've been the team that has been injured. If we've gotten beaten, a lot of times it's because of injuries. Robert Williams and Kemba Walker missed significant time, although we probably weren't beating that Brooklyn team anyway in 2021. Jaylen Brown missed that entire series. So Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, like the list goes on.
It's part of the game. It's a part of the game. You know, if you go back to any championship run, there is a team, the championship team that, you know, hoists that Larry O'Brien trophy has been hurt at some point, or had played a team that has a player hurt. It's part of being a champion is being able to stay healthy. It's just how the league has always worked. So
availability is the best ability. And that's what we said. Absolutely. We say that every time. We say that every post-game show. We say that every podcast. That's just the truth of it. That's just reality.
Well, if you're going to talk about injuries here, we do have an update on Kristaps Porzingis if you haven't already seen it. Joe Mazzulla, in his post-game presser after Game 2, said that he has zero concerns about Kristaps Porzingis in that he is good despite leaving the game to his calf injury. Good news for Celtics fans, Justin. However, it's very apparent, or it was, in my opinion, tonight that, you know, Kristaps is still, despite a phenomenal Game 1, he is going to be dealing with this injury now for the rest of the series. How do you want to see the Celtics handle the Kristaps Porzingis injury moving forward ahead of these next 2 games on the road?
Tonight he was a little bit off. He had a couple collisions, which I believe maybe re-aggravated the knee and maybe, you know, got banged up. But as I just mentioned, like, what player isn't going through injuries right now? If I'm Boston, I don't mind if Kristaps Porzingis remains on the bench for the remainder of the series and they stick with Al Horford. I mean, Al Horford has been your starting center pretty much this entire run, besides games 1 and 2 and 3 of that Miami series. Stick with what's rolling right now. And if you know, you're 2-0 this series with Kristaps Porzingis coming off the bench, KP exited this game in the 4th quarter. Al Horford came in and closed it down the stretch. And similar to what we were talking about with Drew Holiday, you know, we know the capabilities of Al Horford. Al Horford doesn't need to come in and score 18 points. He just, you know, if he can come in, grab some key rebounds, get some key defensive stops. And, you know, I hate to bring up his age because I know, you know, I'm really not trying to be disrespectful, but the fact of the matter is the guy is 38 years old and he's doing these terrific things. And he just, each game, he looks younger and younger at times. But I say the Celtics stick with what they've done the first 2 games. Bring KP off the bench, start Al Horford, and go from there. Because remember, like I said, everybody's banged up right now. You got to weather the storm. And I think the Celtics, by the way, have weathered the storm in this series very well. You look at Game 1, and I don't want to use the word blowing leads. Usually I like to use that term if the Celtics genuinely blow the lead and lose the game. But when Dallas made their run, because basketball is a game of runs, Celtics made their run in the first half. Then in that 3rd quarter, Dallas started to make their run. They got some stops. Boston missed some shots. Dallas started hitting their shots, and all of a sudden, the 29-point lead gets cut down to about 8 or 9. Then Boston responded very well, was able to boost it back up into to about 22, 23 points, and they won by 18. This game, you knew Dallas was going to throw the first punch. Boston weathered that storm particularly well. Was it pretty? No, it wasn't pretty at all. The Celtics missed a lot of good looks, but Jaylen Brown was mic'd up tonight, and in the huddle, he was talking about, hey, we knew this was going to happen. We knew Dallas was going to come out, punch us in the mouth. Let's weather the storm. and let's regroup and let's get some momentum. That's what Boston was able to do tonight. And even late in that game, Boston would extend their lead to about 13, 14, 15 points. Dallas would cut into it. The Celtics in the end held on and were able to close out the game. So weathering the storm has been really important, and it shows the maturity of this group.
Absolutely. I think they need to be very strategic with their Kristaps minutes. Um, you need to be getting, in my opinion, 4 or 5 minutes a quarter of his best basketball in the best time for him to be in. You got to find when he is most effective, whether it's matchup based, whether it's his running mates on the line, whoever whether it's the 4 best players that are next to Kristaps, when his efficiency is the highest. I need this Celtics coaching staff to figure that out. When is Kristaps best against the Dallas Mavericks? And every time that situation it comes around, him to be ready to be in the game. I think that's your best route of attack here. You don't need 34 minutes of decent Kristaps. You need about 20 of very solid, good Kristaps, just to grab 2 more of these. And I think that's the luxury. The Celtics winning this game, Justin, was huge for them because of the lingering Kristaps health, right? He's not 100%. He's probably 70 right now. So them being able to put themselves in a position, which again, we talk about this, how many times in the previous years have the Celtics failed to take advantage and capitalize on positions that benefit them in winning an NBA championship? Tonight, winning game 2 at home with Kristaps Porzingis out in the last 7 minutes of the fourth quarter was setting them up for success and putting them in the best position to win a championship. Because now, instead of this series being tied 1-1 and you have to win 3 of the next 5 games, you only have to win 2 of the next 5 with a hobbled Kristaps. So that's very important by the Celtics. Moving forward, that is something that I have to commend them on.
I do want to make this point, and I understand. I understand we're in the midst of an NBA Finals series right now, but you do have to consider the long-term health of Kristaps Porzingis, a guy that you locked up for next year, because when you make it this far into the postseason, although it's luxurious that you are now 2 wins away from an NBA title, you are also now 2 months less of break time, right? Like if you miss the playoffs or you get outs early, your season ends in April. It's now going to the middle of June. We could be seeing this series be concluded by right around June 23rd if it goes to full 7 games. So almost July, and that's a very short turnaround for the off season when training camp really ramps up in late August, September. So you do want to kind of make sure that this isn't a lingering injury for Kristaps Porzingis, not just for this series, but also you don't really want it to cut into next year either. And when I say next year, I mean 2-3 months from now. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on as well, just for the long term. I know we are focused on this series, rightfully so, but I do kind of just want to throw that in there because it is a particularly quick turnaround. The NBA draft is pretty soon, and pretty soon we'll be talking about free agency and all that crap. So although the goal is the title right now, you also want to kind of keep that in the back of your head as well. But overall, you look at Kristaps Porzingis' minutes here these first 2 games. Now, rightfully so, game 1 was a blowout, so you didn't really need your starters too much down the stretch in that game. But Porzingis 21 minutes in game 1, only 23 minutes here tonight. Reportedly no minute restriction. I'm wondering if it's between 20 and 25 minutes. A little bit interested to see what that's about. But also, game 1 was a blowout, and here in game 2, he looked to be a little bit shaken up late in the game. So I don't know what Missoula's game plan was. I don't know if Missoula wanted to stick with Porzingis in the final half quarter, or if he was going to go back to Horford regardless of Porzingis' status. But that's something to keep an eye on. I think you play it conservative with KP, like you said. You really got to figure out how to use Kristaps Porzingis' minutes to perfection here, because you want to get the matchups right. You want to get all that right. Even if he's not on a minute restriction, you don't want to overuse him, right? Like he's clearly injured. He's clearly hobbled. Like he had a great game 1, and he did show some signs of light here in game 2. But overall, there's evidence that he is still hobbled up. So You definitely, I agree with you. You want to use him wisely here.
Let's put this into perspective real quick. Back on your point of, you're in the dog days of the postseason. Obviously, in June, you're in the finals. If this thing goes 7, a week from the last game, free agency opens up. A week.
Right.
To put that in after the series, if this goes 7 games, the series is over. We're looking at a week until free agency opens.
That's what I'm saying. It's like a turnaround like that.
It's a quick turnaround. So you do want to keep in mind, you got this guy locked up because the goal here, obviously, one ring's great, but this team is looking to, be good for years to come. So that is a thought that should be in the back of the Celtics' mind is weighing the importance. Obviously, it's the finals. You ask me, you got to weigh this series a little bit heavier than the future because of what's at stake. And, nothing's guaranteed in the NBA. You don't know how next year goes. But it's got to be a something they think about and they talk about is, okay, what is his status? How does this affect his future? Because we've seen it with guys like Isaiah Thomas play through injuries that have derailed their careers. And, even Kyrie in Boston played through an injury a little bit, got hurt, had to get surgery on it, missed that entire postseason. So something the Celtics, staff has to think about and look for ahead of games 3 and 4. Justin, before we close out the show, I think we should talk about game 3 a little bit and what we're going to expect in game 3, because I do fully expect this to be Dallas's biggest haymaker punch they're going to throw since game 5 of the 2011 NBA Finals. This is going to be the loudest that arena has been. This is going to be absolutely rough environment for the Celtics to walk into. Nothing they've seen yet this postseason, because this is make or break for them. Game 3 is their season. If they lose game 3, they're essentially knocked out of the NBA playoffs and will have fallen short of their ultimate goal. So for you, what are you expecting to see out of both sides, not just Dallas, but Boston as well, ahead of this game 3 matchup?
I think it's going to be one of those. I think it's going to be a weird game. I think it's going to be a very weird game. If you're Boston, you absolutely need to throw the first punch. There's no, let's get off to this slow start. We'll ease our way into the game. It'll all be A-okay. You need a full 48 minutes because, as you mentioned, a 2-0 series lead is nothing. It is commanding, but it is nothing. Teams have come back from that plenty of times. But to go along with that point, Dallas' season is on the line. No team has ever come back from 0-3. That's a really tough ask. That is a really tough ask to go down 0-3 and claw your way back into it. If I'm Boston and you're going to split these 2 games, game 3 is the game that you have to grab. You really have to put your foot down, and game 3 is that game that you have to grab. It would be sweet to win game, but, if we lose game 3, you're still up 2-1. It would be sweet to, if we go back 3-1 and we win game 4. But in my opinion, I think it'd be even sweeter to win that game 3 because I do feel like that will take a huge mental toll on the Dallas Mavericks. Going into game 4 down 2-1 is a lot better than going down 0-3 into that game 4. So, for the whole mental game, if we're talking about playing these mental games with Kyrie Irving and Jason Kidd playing this mental game with Boston and all that. If you're Boston, you got to throw the first punch, and you have to, like I said earlier, you got to weather that storm because it is going to be a severe storm down there in Dallas, Texas.
Game 2 was, in my opinion, the game that decides the series length. I don't see Dallas winning, knock on wood. Hopefully I'm no bad luck. I don't see them beating Boston twice in a row. And I don't see them now after this game 2 collapse. I don't see them winning in Boston. So let's just put that together here. If Dallas can't beat Boston in Boston, and I don't like their chances at beating the Celtics team twice in a row, we haven't seen a team do it yet this postseason. What's their plan of attack here?
Right.
Obviously, it's win game 3. They got to go one game at a time, right? Personally speaking, I think Dallas wins game 3. I think they go up 2-1, and then I think Boston grabs 4 and 5. That's how I envision this series going. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think Dallas does still have a punch in the tank, but I do think that, as a Celtics fan, I expect Dallas to set their mark and win a game 3, whether it's, by double digits. I don't see that, or a close game they pull away. And then I see Boston obviously winning this series in 5 games. I do think this game 2 says something, that the fact that Dallas wasn't able to walk away with a win here when Boston shot their worst they have all postseason. And I mean, that says something about who they are and how they compare to this Celtics team. You can't look past that. Yes, Tatum played bad, all that. Well, guess what? They still won. And that says something about this matchup, in my opinion.
You can't tell me that Dallas is looking at the stat sheet and seeing Boston shoot in the 20s from 3-point range, and Dallas didn't walk away with the W. Celtics are known, especially in recent years, for living and dying by the 3. And I understand that, this season we have found different ways to win throughout the course of, these past, whatever it is, 90-something games. But overall, the Celtics, when you're shooting 29% from 3, Rob, and you lose this game, or excuse me, you win this game, that is demoralizing for Dallas. That has to be absolutely demoralizing for Dallas. So I do expect Dallas to come out in game 3 and stomp on our throats. I do. I'm not saying we lose by 40 or anything, but I would be very shocked. I would be very shocked if Boston. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to sound like a fair weather fan and doubting the Celtics. Oh, you doubted the Celtics. That's not what I'm trying to say.
No, you're looking at it from a realistic standpoint.
I am. I'd be very shocked if the Boston Celtics went into game 4 with a 3-0 lead. I would be. I'd be more shocked.
I would too. I would.
And
I would.
I'd be excited. I'd be grateful. And the job still isn't finished, but I would definitely be shocked if the Celtics go up 3-0. That being said,
can I say something?
Go ahead,
real quick. At this point, 2 games ago, I would have been shocked. At this point, I don't think I would be super shocked. I would still be shocked, but it's feeling like the Indiana Pacers series.
Well, it's funny.
I'll let you finish there, though.
Well, no, because it's funny, because this is a good conversation to have, because during the regular season, at least the first half before the All-Star break, we were always comparing situations to last year's team, rightfully so. But now that we have a good grasp on it, it's funny, like that Cleveland series and that Indiana series, it's like, okay, even in the Miami series, it's like, okay, this game will tell me what the Celtics team is really about. And then we win that game. And then it's like, okay, well, this game will tell me what the Celtics team is really about, because last year's Celtics wouldn't have closed out a series up 3-1 against Miami. Last year's Celtics wouldn't have closed out on the road in those 2 close games, sweeping the Indiana Pacers. They had their best player or not. Actually, especially if they didn't have their best player. So I still think, though, I would be taken back if the Celtics went up 3-0.
Right.
But at the same time, Rob, I can't. I got to be honest with you. Mentally, I can't see the Celtics lose a playoff game, especially in the NBA Finals. But in my heart, I really want to see the Celtics hoist up the trophy at home. I really want them to celebrate in Boston. Whether I'm at the Garden or not, I want to see center court, green confetti falling down from the court, and the Celtics jumping up and down on Lucky and celebrating that championship. Because although it was sweet to win it in Miami, although it was sweet to win it in Indiana, it'd be damn sure sweet to win it in Boston and hoist that trophy up right under the 17 banners in that blank banner. So for sure, I would love the Celtics to go out on the road, stomp Dallas, and close this series out. The reality of it is, I don't think that's going to happen. It wouldn't shock me if it doesn't happen, but I would love for the Celtics to go out and win that game 3. If we're going to split here, I'd love game 3 to be that game that we win. Being up 3-0 is so much more comfortable than being up 2-1. So,
I think the fan in me says 5. Well, that's not even true, because I'm still going 5. For me, I agree. Boston owes it to their fans to celebrate on the parquet.
Yeah.
So many failures in previous years on that court. They haven't, this year's finals, Eastern Conference Finals, they swept them. It was great. We really haven't seen a celebration in Boston yet. Mind you, I'm not a picky man. If we
Well,
can win an NBA championship in 4, I'll take,
right,
right,
right.
obviously. But I do. I would be surprised, I think, for sure, if we win game 3. But to be fair, the way this is playing out and turning out, it just feels like Dallas doesn't have enough. And Boston is so focused and locked in that it might just be that Boston's execution and talent is so good in a game-to-game basis that Dallas just doesn't have enough. It's almost like the 2017 Warriors, right? Like teams just sometimes didn't have enough just to get a game. It's just like every game they were so good and their talent got them in situations that they just won because of how talented their team was. It kind of feels like that. Maybe I'm speaking too soon with this Celtics team.
I don't think you're speaking too soon because no matter what the outcome of this series has been, there's no doubt thus far where we are right now at this very moment compared to where we could be in the next week or two.
Right.
The Celtics have taken care of business, and I like that comparison to that 2017 Warriors team because it's like you look at this you put out the Celtics 5 right now, and you can even throw Horford in there. There's not a guy that you can double team and leave open, right? Like that, yeah. Similar to that Golden State team. It's like, how can you guard them, and then how can you get a consistently flowed offense through them, when they're playing defense. That's kind of what you get with this team. It's like teams can't figure out the Celtics, whether they're healthy or not. But another point I wanted to make on the whole specifically wanting to win at home, these past 2 years have been incredibly tough to watch two rivals raise up the trophy at your home court. Miami last year, Golden State 2 years ago. That's tough. That was really, really excruciatingly tough. That Golden State series 2 years ago, you were minutes away from a 3-1 lead. You blew it. That Miami series, yes, history was against you, but Tatum goes down with that ankle injury. The Celtics were getting blown out. Derek White was the only one to show up in that game 7, and ultimately that led to the Celtics essentially blowing up their entire roster. Although it has turned into what we have today, which we were grateful for, that was still a tough moment during that moment. So it would be pretty sweet to hoist that Larry O'Brien trophy in Boston. But like you said, Rob, when if we can win a championship in 4 games, we ain't going to be complaining. So, that definitely, we're not complaining about that. But I will say, though, it would be a little extra sweet to raise the trophy back home in Boston.
Without a doubt. And we will see what happens in game 3. That will be on June 12th. That is, I believe, Wednesday, June 12th at 8:30. I know they make us wait
these All-Star breaks.
It's the worst.
We had 12 days off, 10 days off before this series. Why do we need 3 games?
And you know what? The good news is, though, is games 3 and 4 that has a 1-day break. So I believe
and it gives KP 3 days to rest if he really is banged up. Mazzulla said he's fine, by the way. I see some comments asking about Porzingis. Mazzulla says he's fine, but it does give him some time to get some rest.
Right. So, guys, again, the Celtics tonight in a crucial game 2 at home in the NBA Finals, they were able to pull out a win 105-98 against the Dallas Mavericks. Again, game 3 of the NBA Finals will be June 12th at 8:30 p.m. tip-off. We'll have you covered here live for Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. Tonight, Drew Holiday had it going. 26 points, 11 rebounds, 2 stocks on the night for Drew in a crucial game 2 win at home. The Celtics and the Mavs will be back at it. So will we, guys. I'm Rob. Next to me is my man, Justin. And you guys know the drill. Until next time, cue the music and go Celtics.